Today on Drawbli.
I am drawing Mason from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Hey, I'm Ben.
And I'm Abby.
And we are self-taught artists documenting our journey of learning to draw, which is, of course, better with friends.
So hit that subscribe button if you're new around here and share your art on Instagram with hashtag Drawbli.
So, what made you choose to draw Mason from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
Well, the movie is coming out, or has just come out, and I have not seen it yet, but I did see this JPEG, and it is so cool. Yeah.
I asked you, and I do know that you lied about your answer of why you chose this, because I know that the real answer of why you chose to draw this photo reference is the jacket.
I did say the JPEG was cool, and it's everything plus the jacket. It's the big collared shirt with the 70s print. It's the big plastic chunky glasses and the afro. Like, everything about this is just a beautiful, like, 70s look to me. I did not include the jewelry. It just didn't come up, but those are simple hoop earrings and a necklace. Just didn't get that far.
Wouldn't have been that hard to include.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't have been, but so here's how this went. Let me talk about my process.
I know that you spent almost all of your time in the beginning on the jacket.
And near the end.
Okay.
And in the middle.
And in the middle.
This was 4+ hours of work. And at that point...
It already looks really cool at this stage, though.
Thank you.
Your like shapes that you create in the beginning with your lines just drawing out always look super good.
Thank you. I feel like my lines give it some energy and direction and motion.
So much energy.
I try to do my lines with like a whole arm movement versus quick like wrist like chicken scratch motions because I feel like that conveys a lot more.
I feel a little called out here.
Who me call out? No, ever no. That's just how I've developed my personal line style. But when it comes to rendering and painting, wow, you just blow me out of the water because I spent forever rendering and never really getting to convey what I felt like would have done true justice to this JPEG. But I did have a blast working on it. Like I said, I spent like 4+ hours, which is not a big amount of time in the grand scheme of things with an art piece.
It's not a ton.
But a lot of that felt like it was very much noodling around, trying to make things look the way I thought they should, but not doing decisive things to get them there.
I find that noodling happens a lot of the time when we don't necessarily understand what's creating a certain effect on something, or like we can't. A little hard to describe. Like this jacket it's very shiny, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, there is clearly a light source above her, like you can see it on the shoulders, but like all this light on the front, like what's going on there? It almost feels a little random.
Yeah, it really felt like I was just trying to copy little like gradient changes that were just almost like felt randomly placed, and trying to get it to look like leather just was out of the picture. The image is, to be fair, a little pixelated. There wasn't a
little room for interpretation
out quite yet. Yeah, a little more room for interpretation. But nonetheless, I mean, I still had so much fun working on this. Usually I know when I'm done with a piece because I'm no longer having like a lot of fun working on it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt with my last one.
Yeah, and it's a great rule of thumb to go by, especially at our stage. Like, there's no client I'm working for that it has to be perfect for at some point.
Our audience, Abby.
Yeah.
Don't you want to make your work as good as possible?
I do. But our audience understands. They know. They're on the same journey, many of them.
This is true.
Of trying to get better at art and just pursuing art for their own sakes. And
dear audience, how goes that journey? Let us know down below.
Yes, dear audience, how goes your journey with art?
The champs, as we love to call them.
Yes, our champions of art, champions of our hearts. What I know about this character is that her name is Mason, and she's played by Shawnette Renee Wilson, who also plays in The Black Panther. I would love to do a portrait from The Black Panther because there's a lot of
there's so many
cool character design.
I'll be honest, like a ton of Marvel films, like as much crap as they get for having some generic storylines, like good versus evil, good guy wins, the end. Typical kind of thing there with superheroes. I really think that they genuinely have like fantastic cinematography Like you can just hit pause at any point in a Marvel film, and it just looks amazing. Like the composition, the lighting, everything is just gorgeous.
I think you once told me the name of the studio that they work with for all of that.
I actually don't know off the top of my head. I assume it's ILM.
I don't know who that is, but good
Industrial
for them.
Light and Magic.
Oh, yeah, I think that's right.
I do believe it's them.
They're the industry standard.
They are definitely one of the good ones.
Something else I really struggled with on this piece was very muddy edges, and that's something I worked on like in the beginning stages and the very end stages, was trying to make my edges sharper, like on the lapels of the jacket and the shapes of the button.
I think I've figured that one out a little more lately.
I used the selection tool, like I made like very sharp contrast between light and dark, and still I was just, every time I'd zoom in on a spot, it looks just all muddy. So I don't know if I was actually like, this is one of those deceptively difficult images where looking at the JPEG, you're like, cool, it's a portrait, I can do portraits.
It's a JPEG.
She's wearing a jacket, I can paint a jacket. She's wearing a shirt, I can paint a shirt. She's got a face and glasses, I can paint those things. But when it came down to it, it was so many actually very complex pieces that to try to render faithfully was very difficult. It made me wish that I was pushing more into stylizing.
Ooh.
Where you don't have to be like faithful to the reference as much, but that takes a certain skill and practice that I haven't developed yet at this point.
That we do not have.
Right. But I'll get there. I'll get there.
Tell me more about your process then.
So I was just trying to commit like shapes of orange to where they appear.
I remember when you showed me this piece initially, like you were maybe about at this stage, maybe a little further, and you were like, hey, like what should I work on? What can I work on at this stage? Do you remember what I told you?
You told me the eyes looked a little bit flat and the lips also looked a little bit flat.
I think that you had stuff like in the proper position, like it looked good where it was, but it was lacking some of that dimensionality.
The shirt on this was really fun to work on because I didn't care about being super true to the reference image. I just put down...
Which is stylizing in itself.
That's true. That's true. I just wanted it to look like kind of that, had that 70s, 80s-esque. Who knows? Maybe this is meant to be the 90s. Who even knows? I wasn't alive for most of those.
You were alive for most of the 90s. We were just very young.
I wasn't paying attention to fashion at 6 years old. No.
I think it's funny what you said there about not really caring about the like pattern on this shirt, because neither would I would just try to get like the general gist of it, which brings up a good point about there being like two different kinds of stylization, where it's like one is this very controlled, like, you know, oh, I'm gonna simplify this and make it this way and this, and then the other way is like what we do a lot of the time, which is like whatever comes out is what we have.
Yeah. Does it get the vibe across? Okay, if the vibe is there, that's
It's all about
good.
the vibe here on Drawbli.
Yes, absolutely.
And you've done a very good job of capturing the vibe of Mason.
Thank you.
And the likeness.
I can't wait to see the movie and find out like who she is. Is she a good
Mason
guy,
the
a bad
villain.
guy?
Ooh.
I know. Either way though, like no matter what she is, she dresses awesome. So I think I'm gonna be a fan of this character in any capacity. Hopefully those words don't age badly.
I'm a little worried. Just because the last Indiana Jones movie, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which, gosh, that came out quite a while ago now, I was a little disappointed by it. It wasn't like the old Indiana Jones movies.
I really liked the cinematography in the beginning of that movie, where you're in this little like fake town and all the colors are weirdly saturated, and it's going to be a bomb test site that he's somehow stuck in. Yeah, that's what stood out to me. And the rest of it's just a little bit like, oh, a little adventure flick, yeah. But the beginning was just fun to look at, especially for its time.
I love the old Indiana Jones movies.
Right.
They're so good.
They are so good. I don't do scary in any capacity, at least not when I was younger.
They do have a couple like scary moments.
Where the guy melts.
The guy melts? Oh, you mean when he turns old really quick? He kind of like melts.
Yeah.
Or the one where they open up the arc.
The arc.
Okay,
yeah. That I remember seeing and like, oh my gosh, that's so intense.
I
But
love
now
how there's
think it's
like
cool.
always Nazis in Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah,
It's like a funny theme of like the bad guys are always Nazis because we all agree Nazis are terrible.
Nazis are the bad guys.
Yeah.
They will always be for all of time. So this will never age poorly. Good.
What have you done here with your face, like cutting things out? You just deleted your whole body and everything else? You're like, FaceTime.
FaceTime.
Double time.
By Apple. I have just hidden that layer so I could focus on the face.
I love the hair texture.
Thank you. I was really happy with how that hair texture was coming along at that
Amazing.
point. Thank you.
You've been doing a lot of cool stuff with texture in Drawbli lately.
Have I?
You have. You don't know it, but you have.
Oh, well, good. Because I still fight with myself feeling like I'm doing that smooth digital art look where it's too smooth everywhere all the time.
I don't think you do that. I think you use a lot more textured brushes than I do in general.
Mm-hmm.
What I typically do is I go in like after the fact and then start to add in texture. But oh man, like look at that. The textured transitions you're getting are so cool.
Thank you.
Makes me very jealous.
Oh, well, thank you. I did finally brighten the eyes and deflatten them as suggested by you early on. So thank you for that pro tip because I did need it. I think they look a little bit more dimensional now at this point.
This is so colorful and just fun to look at.
Something I was worried about with it being this colorful was that everything was so saturated that it destroys like having an area of focus.
No, everything should be 100% saturated all the time.
It's very, very saturated. And I remember one of my earlier lessons I learned early in Drawbli was like start with everything in kind of a grayer scale and then add really saturated colors just where it matters. But with this JPEG, that's not an option. Everything's bright, everything's popping, everything looks so fun and colorful. I love color.
That's how I work. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not working in that grayscale. I just go in with the colors right away.
Yeah.
And you know I love my layers, my layer opacity. I'm all about the layer opacity.
Oh yeah, you painted in really bright colors and then fade it out like with the opacity. I think that's a great way to work too.
I don't know if it is, but it's what I got. It's what I do.
I'm gonna have to experiment with that a little more. I always say I will, and then when I'm actually painting, I forget all about it.
You mentioned the selection tool earlier, and I'm like, oh man, I haven't done stuff with the selection tool in a while, which makes me like want to get back to my roots, you know, my Drawbli roots, because like that's where I shine.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's an area where now if you went back and like combined your powers of sketching with the selection tool,
I think I'm just gonna wreck it.
you'll be unstoppable.
I think that's what I'm gonna do next week.
I'll have to think about like areas that I was strong with in the very get-go and combine those with areas that I've strengthened now. But
What were you strong with in the get-go?
Nothing. Not digitally. Digitally was just so difficult for me.
I was strong at drawing geckos.
Yeah, we did draw a gecko one time. I think together we like traded the iPad back and forth on Drawbli.
We did do some lizards, yeah.
I think I had a gecko going and you had a turtle. The turtle turned out awesome.
Oh yeah, I loved the turtle. I actually looked back at that recently.
Yeah.
All right, Abby, you know what time it is. It's
sure
time
do.
for our second ever Masterpiece Minute.
Oh my gosh, I love Masterpiece Minute. So Masterpiece Minute is where we generate a random prompt word and we have 1 minute
1 minute
to create a masterpiece. One of us will be better than the other.
We're both doing it. This is a competition. You guys get to decide who wins. Last one, let's just say I kind of crushed the competition.
Well, I don't know. The comments will decide, and my take on Village was pretty good. So what's the word today?
The word is manager. Oh, no.
Okay.
Okay, Abby, here, let me pull up the timer. We have 1 minute to create a masterpiece.
I love it. Okay.
Are you ready?
I am.
Go.
Okay, so when I think of manager, I think of the most quintessential manager that ever managered, and that is, of course, Michael from The Office. And
that's a good one. Oh,
and
man.
one time he dresses up and has like a purple bandana on his head for Michael type reasons.
Oh no.
And when I was a new nurse, I actually bought a badge reel on Etsy so that I could wear his crazy
What's his
face.
name? Prison Mike?
Prison Mike. And elderly patients would see that badge reel.
Is that your boyfriend?
They
Is that
would
your
literally
husband?
ask me if that was my husband, and I'd be
Oh
like,
my
well, that would
God.
be pretty cool. You married
Mike.
Michael Scott, but not really. So
would you tell them, yes, that's my husband? Because I would, 100%.
No, I would just say, oh, he's from a show.
Oh, that's my boyfriend, actually. We're getting married.
Yeah.
Oh no, the timer didn't actually start.
Oh, well, let's count down.
You
10.
you get 15 extra seconds, we'll say. Oh man, I have no idea what else to do now.
I don't either. I think he's finished. It's a masterpiece. Got a color in his suit, and I'll give him a tie, because Michael always wears a tie. I don't know how suits look like, apparently. I bet you're going to win this one, because this is not really it today.
All right, I'm gonna say that's time. I think we went way over a minute, but I'll just let you. Oh wow, you'll beat a palatable. Is that something he says?
He says it to Ryan in the show.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
You beat
Okay,
a
here's my
palatable.
manager.
I'm not a manager. Think about it.
Okay, so this one, I mean, if you were a manager, you would understand it.
Okay, if I was a manager, I would know that I'm not a manager. I'm a womanager.
No,
that's not it? That's not the joke? I don't get the joke?
No,
Okay.
it's not that it's a joke. It's just like a manager thing.
Oh,
So
are you a manager? You've never been a manager.
yeah, I have.
No, you haven't. Who did you manage? You manage yourself and your own business at home.
I'm managing you.
You
Okay?
do not manage me.
I'm managing
You
you.
do no such
Now let's
thing.
manage this final artwork
Woo!
here. Check out this piece, the final piece by Abby, which turned out amazing.
Thank you.
As always,
It
with
needs
Abby.
like 5 more hours of work, but hey, that's not going to make me feel like I'm actually advancing myself as an
5
artist.
more hours? No, it looks
Literally
awesome.
5
This
more
looks
hours.
super good.
If you zoom out, I like it, but if
If
you
you
zoomed
zoom-
out in,
You zoom out real far.
yeah, it looks better from a distance. Just don't examine it up close.
Well, hey, if you think we look better from a distance, you should click that like and subscribe button.
And share your work on Instagram with #Drawbli, because drawing is better together.
And this is the part where we say
Goodbye.
Goomba.
Should we go to the movies now?
We can't go to the movies now, Abby. Remember, you're going to work. You have to work and make that bread.
I am going to work.
Because you're a baker.
I'm a baker now. What?